Earlier this year of 2022, I had a conversation with somebody named Jack Chavez and the guy called The Observer. And what I want to do today is to add more context to that conversation. None of this is going to make any sense unless you watch the original video titled Who Are They? Or Bachelor Grove Cemetery Dash Who Are They? And what this is just excerpts from that clip, a couple of them, of the conversation, to give you a general idea of what I was describing, what was going on, and the little mystery that's been going on behind the scenes over the years. And then I'm going to clip into just excerpts of some of that material that I had referenced. Again, you're not going to make much sense of this at all unless you watch previous material. So for those of you that have interest in this, are actually taking it seriously, this is for you. This is for like the need to know, not the want to know. If you want to know, you're probably entertained. But if you need to know, if you're going through these weird experiences, some of this might be kind of helpful. But I just wanted to kind of clear up a few things. When I talk to people on the side, it's hard to reference this material, like where to find it and that kind of thing. So this is not all the material, but this is just some of it. So without further ado, at one point this year, once I started revealing over time that the beings I was interacting with here at the Grove were directly related in some way from my childhood and beyond, I posed this question to them. I said, because I had a feeling like I wouldn't be on the planet much longer, for whatever that means. I'm like, I think it's time. I want to see what you look like. It's time. I'm ready for it, if that's the case. I think I deserve that much. Mm. And so there was a point, and I'll throw in some footage of this, of me doing this, when I built the Raspberry Pi kind of camera network with all this tech stuff. About 5 or 6 days in a row, I was filming the front entrance around 6 o'clock because things usually happen there. And you think my interaction with these beings, I could put a camera down and say, okay, roll it. It doesn't work that way. But I did it anyway. Now, it was just one particular day where it got really cold, and I decided, I'm not going to film. However, during that same day, that was when I was putting these thoughts out to them that I think I'm ready to see you. However, my communication back from them in that telepathic way was, and I'll try to keep this short, was, well, we can't just walk up to you face to face. I don't know if that was because it wasn't a good idea or logistics or whatever, but I know they have a technology, okay, because they're not dead people. And from them, they told me that a hologram was something that was a possibility, capability. And I said, okay, I'm willing to accept a hologram. I just need to know that it is a hologram, because of some of the interactions that they give me from a sciencey learning based kind of thing. I need to know it's not a hologram, not a timeline thing or whatever. I know this is all crazy stuff, right, Jack? It's it's crazy.
It's a lot to take in.
It is. So I said, okay, in order for me to know that it's a hologram, my idea was to pick the color yellow, because there's a significance to the color yellow here at the Grove. It's a rare thing. And so what ended up happening on that day that I had decided to leave was they ended up doing exactly what I asked, because part of the hologram situation was I wanted them to walk down the trail by the cemetery gates on the southwest side. I needed a front profile view of what they look like, and then I needed them to go behind a particular bush and go towards the cemetery to give me a side profile view. So when I did leave, I got that funny feeling. I turned around and I saw somebody already walking. I'll clip some pictures in so you can get a better idea of where this whole layout is. I had witnessed something walking down the trail. Now, when I first saw it, it was full gray. And I thought, wow, talk about looking like a ghost at Bachelors Grove. Mm-hmm. But you're close enough to see this thing where you're like, okay, no, this is not human. You know the head. The head was elongated, partially elongated. It's a very skinny person, by the way, but partially elongated with its head. It even looked like its neck was kind of funny because it actually tipped its head back at a point when it was walking, and then went like this, almost like it wanted me to see all these details. Very bony structure, sunken in kind of blackish looking eyes, like just this weird boniness to it. It looked like it had hair, a patch of hair here, but it didn't look like normal hair. And I'm trying to remember all these details. I don't know, Jack, if this is triggering any. I'm hoping, because you forgot some details here. So as it approaches this little hump of dirt near the cemetery entrance, it's now going behind this one particular bush. And now I don't see it. So I go to pull out the binoculars that I had to go look. Now I barely got it up like this when the being started walking out from the bush towards the cemetery fence, not the entrance, but the fence. And now what I'm seeing is, I'm hoping to do a representation, is as it's walking, there's like this flat line that forms as it's walking, and I'm seeing in between its back and this flat wallish thing is this yellow light. Still not clicking though, but I'm seeing this yellow light, and I'm fucking amazed. I'm like, holy shit, what the fuck is this? And now I see all these sparkly colors of different types, but now I'm seeing these shapes, whether they go boom, like a little L, or a circle with a line through it, not a Q, but and they would spin, like almost like three-dimensional free space. These symbols are spinning while these sparkly things going on with kind of a yellow background to it. And I should probably not hide this fact, but at some point this communication was stare at these symbols, stare at the light. Okay, it's important. And so I did. I took more focused my mind on that versus watching what this person was looking like with a side profile. And eventually, the colors and everything disappear. So now I'm focused on the being walking, and it's getting closer to the fence. And it gets to the fence, facing north, starts turning west all the way around, and now faces me for a moment and just stares at me. I'm not creeped out, but I'm like, this is so fucking cool. Like, it's looking right at me, It turns back, looks at the bush, and walks back towards the bush. But as it's walking towards the bush, now I'm focused more on its legs, because it looks like a woman's summer dress down to past the ankles, and it's swaying. It's swaying, right? And it goes behind this bush again. And of course, I pull out the binoculars, and I'm walking up on this thing slowly. I'm not taking my eyes off anyway. Of course, there's nothing behind this bush, as I reported in the video. Now, some of the details when I first had witnessed it was, as far as clothing, it had clothing all the way down to its wrist, each side. It looked like a robe, but there was no hood. It had a V thing open up in here, open chest kind of thing. And at the waist, it had kind of a bulginess to it. It wasn't until the side profile view that I could get a better idea, but that's how it was when it was first coming up. There was a whitish look to its chest area. There was something just all wrong about the clothes. What are some of the other details that I might be missing here? Long before this being showed itself on the path, I came across, this is where I don't want to bring up the guy's name, but I'll bring it up just for the sake of this. Maybe I'll blank it out. I came across somebody named Corey Good. And I dabbled just a little bit in his information. Intriguing, you don't know, just like when you're listening to us talk, you're like, do we believe these nutcases? And so, as I listened to him speak, though, he mentioned these beings that he interacted with called Anshar. And the way that the Anshar interact with the surface population in their sleep, and sometimes, I guess, in waking states and stuff, but the way that they train and teach people and interact, and just in a positive way. And as I listened to this man talk, there was just something about it, something even very unique. And I'm near the creek by the cemetery when I'm listening to this one more time, and I'm like, and I put this telepathic thought out to our friends here. I said, is this you? Because this sure as hell sounds like it's you. Because I soon realized, over the years, I shouldn't say soon, but over the years I realized that the same people that were interacting with me at 1213 are the same ones interacting here at the Grove. I'm like, I need to know if this is you. This sure as hell sounds like it's you. And they seem to be fairly honest with me. Like, if I get something wrong on a question, they don't present things to me. But if I tweaked a question and got something right, like, okay, voila, he's on to something, we'll give him a little bit of taste of this just so he can learn it. Okay, so they don't seem to want to, lie to you. They want you on that correct path of something, okay, whatever you're doing. So when I said to them that, I need to know that this is you, I focused on the two piney-looking trees in the cemetery, and I said, make that ground shake noticeably for many minutes. And now you can go back in time and see these YouTube videos of me talking about the ground shaking as well as a witness to the ground shaking. However, I had relayed this to Jack and gave Jack the behind the scenes details of which I don't want to bring up. So I brought him over there and I said the Anshar thing. But I don't take it at face value. Yeah, they made the ground shake. Yeah, they made the tree glow, the flashing lights occurring. Sorry, I don't have it recorded on video. But they're trying to tell me, yes, that's us. But I'm not taking it at face value. That's just not how I work. The events are happening, but I'm just not quite ready to say, okay, you're really Anshar. So,
Is that the name that they're giving to you?
No, that's the name I got from Corey Good.
Yeah, I think people should know that. Yeah.
Right. That's right. This is not something that they told me. But the way that they're operating is they're saying yes because I asked the question. I said, is this you? Now, I've done things in the past where I've asked things and got zero response. So it's almost like, nope, don't got it.
Yeah.
Give no response. Give no inkling of, they'll give no attention to that question because you're probably way off or whatever the case may be. But here we got, oh my God, the ground's shaking, lights are going off, and they're inducing memories. We'll do a separate video on the ground shaking thing. But the point is, like, they're trying to tell you, yeah, we're Anshar. And I'm still like, not quite. Told that to Jack, told that to Neil and them, just for the sake of the future, in case we have a conversation like this.
Yeah.
Now, we fast forward, here's this being, I'm looking up the photograph. I leave Jack, and I'm at like a Dunkin' Donuts, and they're talking to me again, telepathic, look up this picture. He's your answer. Jack's got your answer. I'm like, what? Because you showed me this picture. It made this connection, like, I need to pay attention to this picture, yet you somehow don't remember it. It's so funny.
I don't.
And so I did, and it took me all night. All night, so obscure. And here I find out who did this drawing, who was behind it, who authorized it. Guess who it was? Corey Good. Weird. But what gets weirder is when you find out exactly when he talks about these beings. And the one in the path is supposedly called a Sentinel. And Jack, you got to read the document today on the notes I've been taking. That's as much information as I have. That's a very small amount of information. But according to Corey, when he's taken by the Anshar and they're visiting these ancient sites and doing certain things, these beings that they thought were artificial intelligence because they look holographic in nature. That's the thing when I started reading this shit. This is so weird. And the way that these holographic in nature beings are, when they telepathically communicate, they spit these colors and these shapes off their body. How could you imagine this stuff? And now it's turning out that it's related somehow, according to this guy Corey, to the Anshar.
So you mentioned in your update that August 3rd you were told to prepare for this, but this was just sort of to get you ready for it.
Right.
So how did you get prepared for this?
I was doing my best to meditate and get in the right frame of mind because Gonzalez had been turned away.
So did Kari give you any specific instruction as to how to prepare for this trip?
No, she just told me to prepare myself that it was about to occur. And
now, you knew that Gonzalez had been taken away, and what did the Sentinel tell Gonzalez at the time about why he couldn't go in?
That he lacked humility.
Lacked humility.
We flew inside this cavern down at the bottom, and we landed in the area where Gonzalez had gone before. It was kind of like a grotto area that wasn't extremely large. The walls were glistening as if there was, I don't know, some sort of crystalline nature to them. And there were two things similar to obelisks on either side of, there was a door here, a huge door going into the larger part of the cavern. The Anshar craft was here, and then there was an obelisk thing on each side of the entrance to the door, but not exactly by the entrance. And they had H's on them, kind of like the totem pole manner going up, and it got smaller and smaller.
Okay, got it.
So once I looked around and I noticed that, and I was looking through the opening, and I could see one little piece of the structure that we were going to go to, and it looked like tinted glass.
Were the obelisks that you saw also glass looking?
Stone.
Stone, okay. Okay.
And they looked newer. They didn't look real old, but maybe it's because they were protected.
Was the H like carved inside the stone, like carved in, or was it embossed and it came out?
It was carved in.
Okay.
And then, boom, with no warning, this 14-foot tall white being appears. And it's wearing clothing that looks like shiny white plastic.
Wow.
Yeah, and the most interesting thing was they had black eyes, but they had this nose, the bridge of their nose went down, and then it looked like it kind of turned up, Like part of the nose was shooting down, and then this part right here was going up. It was very odd looking. And then
When you say black eyes, you mean did they have whites of their eyes, or was it totally black? The iris was
Iris,
black? Okay.
right.
So they have a very unusual nose.
right, chiseled bone structure, real straight lines in the cheeks,
Huh.
and white hair, or what would pass for hair. And I was a little shocked when it appeared, but it didn't communicate. It just looked at us and then did its head like this and turned and went through the passageway.
Did you get the sense that this was a living being or some sort of bio-hologram or something?
It seemed to be some sort of intelligent hologram.
Okay. So it turns its head and leads you into where?
Into the larger cavern where this structure was that I only saw a piece of. So we followed this being that the Anshar call the Sentinel into one of the corners where it arches. We
Okay.
walk in a ways, and then we all turn and look at the wall of one of the corner areas.
Okay.
And there's a big symbol that Gonzalez had described. It looked like a backwards E that was like a G at the bottom, that was flattened at the bottom. And there were other symbols on the other three corners that I couldn't really make out. And all of a sudden, the tinted glass went clear. And all of these other different types of symbols started appearing, and then they started moving. They were moving this way, they were moving that way, catty-corner in every direction. It was just moving all around, and they were like pulsing all the different colors of the spectrum.
Wow.
And I was hearing tones as well, a full range of tones along the octave scale. I was like, okay, and I looked over at Kari, and she put her skinny little finger up and said, watch.
It's like you're reading other people's mail.
Yeah, I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
So I looked and I'm watching, and all of this, is occurring. And I started asking her questions, and she was like, just watch, pay attention. So I paid attention and was watching, but this Sentinel communicated with me, and it was more powerful than the incident with the white Draco, where it reached in violently and just took over. I could feel the communication in all of my body at the same time.
Wow.
And it simply asked me, would you like to know who you were, who you are, and who you will be? The question I'd been asked before.
Same question that you said Gonzalez had been asked, and he said yes.
Right. Well, I felt compelled. I said no. And I saw movement out of the corner of my eye, and Kari did it like this and looked down and had the big old smile on her face. Like, she wasn't surprised.
Okay, so let's walk through what happens after you say no.
The being disappears. All of the symbols had stopped, and the only symbols that remained were the ones I described before. But,
Which was the E with the G on the bottom, the backwards
right,
E? Okay.
Right, and while the symbols were flying all over the place, one of the questions I asked Kari was, is this math? And she was, before she told me to turn around and look again, she was like, this is the mathematical language of the ancients. And it was over. The being disappeared without saying a word, and the structure went tinted again. And so we started to walk out, and I started asking Kari, what just happened? I was thinking to myself, is that it? I was expecting some big tour of ancient builder race ruins, and I was disappointed, let down. And she told me that information had been imparted to me and received from me.
So maybe what you saw was almost like picking up the phone on an old dial-up modem, and you hear that kind of stuff. And somehow you could descramble that data, but what you were seeing maybe was not the solution. It was just the code, or something like that.
Whatever was imparted to me, I felt like some giant zip file had been put on my hard drive, and I could feel it taking up space, but I didn't have the password. I didn't have access to the information. And I was telling her this, it doesn't make sense why I would have information like this and not have access to it. And she said, it will make sense in the near future. We walked into the main hallway, and it didn't have all the seats in it, the horseshoe-shaped areas where people sat. It was just open floor. So we walk inside there, and there appears a Sentinel again.
The same guy as before.
It looked exactly the same.
Wow.
So without saying a word, it reached into my mind and immediately started showing me all these scenes. I would see kind of like, it would be like, sort of like seeing movie clips. But some of them were just like maybe less than a second. Some of them lasted like 4 or 5 seconds, but they were just flying around like crazy.
Scenes of what exactly?
Well, I saw my life, and I started seeing my memories going all the way back till the earliest point in my childhood.
So did it start from where you are now and then
Yes.
count backwards?
Yeah, and I was seeing just little, I saw my dad in this old blue rocking chair that we had when I was a kid. That's one of the ones that stuck in my head, but it was just going by so fast. And then,
Did these events seem to have emotional significance or poignancy for you? Were they like
No.
significant in any way?
no.
It's just a big flash.
Yeah, and I was just kind of, they were strobing. I was kind of picking 1 and 2 out here and there. And then we started going through memories that were not mine, scenes of, past times, just very, undescript kind of things, but they were familiar. At this point, my heart was beating very heavily. I was starting to hyperventilate, so the scene stopped immediately. And the Sentinel disappeared. And I looked over at Kari, and she was looking at me with a little bit of concern, and she asked me if I needed a moment, if I was okay.
Was she able to perceive what you perceived?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. After Kari basically was like asking if I was okay, we got back in the Anshar vessel to leave. And I barely remember walking back to the vessel. I really don't remember the trip back because I was just sitting there thinking and visualizing what I had seen. And, I asked her again, I said, what was all this? What was the purpose for it? And she said, well, this was a repository of the ancient builders that was imparted to you. I said, well, I don't remember, I can't retain any of the knowledge. I can't, I can't pull any memories, from whatever this repository is. What good is it if I can't remember it and report it? And she did her big smile and told me that it would make more sense in the near future.